Frank. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you, Devin?
Good, good. It's been a long time since I think we last chatted to each other. I think that was way back at Blue Monkeys and stuff when we met,
Yes.
but
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, good
crazy
to
how
see your
time.
face again and hear your voice again.
Oh, thank you. Nice. Can you just tell us a little bit about yourself and your writing and publishing journey?
I moved to Central Ohio and started attending a church here that was finally a church home that I had not had for quite a long time.
Mhm.
And so I got involved in writing for the stage as a result of knowing some people at that church,
Oh, cool.
and did some writing for some film projects and did sound production for several films, and so I had a journey of watching uh, writers write, and I got the bug in me to write for a big play. And
Oh,
as the journey of that progressed, the team that I was part of said, "Frank, take the reins and write away." And so I was the primary writer of this play,
oh,
and
wow.
it went really well. It impacted a lot of lives, and so that was exciting. I kind of found that I was good at writing as a result of the comments that came as a result of these short films and these stage productions. I consider myself a writer of transformational fiction.
Yay.
I think that I heard that term from the very first for the very first time from Ted Decker,
Okay.
and I I understood his definition, and I wanted to write to impact lives. I wanted my characters to have to go through some difficult situations, uh, and yet grow as a result of them. And I found out that as a result of writing transformational fiction, I was growing as well. So it was
Yep.
challenging me.
Oh, good.
Um, and that's why I call myself an impact writer.
Okay. I love that. That's so cool. I love that. I love hearing the stories of like how how writers became writers, Like
Yeah,
it's
I do
just
too.
powerful when you hear like what kind of spurred the writer on and whatnot.
So be careful, because I may start reflecting back your questions and finding out about your writing journey.
That's
So,
all right. Yeah, no,
I mean,
I
for all those people that are watching your podcast, how much do they really know about the girl that's actually interviewing everybody? Is there a
hey, there
lot
you
of
go. That's
information about that?
right. Very true. Yeah. No kidding, huh? That's yeah, no, I've always wanted to be a writer. So I think that ever since I was little, but the big change happened when I found out what my name meant. I found out my name meant poet. So when that
No
happened,
kidding.
yeah, poet. Who would have known Devin means poet?
That's great.
Yeah. So that really was a life-changing moment because I feel like names and words have power. So
Yeah.
um every time someone's like, "Oh, Devin, Devin, Devin," they're really saying poet, poet, poet. And it's like, okay, I guess it's been spoken over me. So I need to write.
That's fabulous. That's
Right.
fabulous. I've got a similar thing that goes on with my names.
Cool.
William means something along the line of gallant protector, or fearsome warrior. And my middle name, Franklin, is one of freedom. And so I write stories where people have to rise up and be protectors, and people are
Yep.
gaining their freedom. So yeah, kind of a
That's
neat.
beautiful. I love that too. That's wonderful. Cool. Okay. Well, and then what so are you indie trad? What are you?
I am
Published.
traditionally published for my first three novels, and
Okay.
indie published for my fourth.
Yep.
Um, it uh, it started out with me having finally completed a book. Took me 6 years to write,
Yep.
and uh, a small publishing company in a traditional company in Indiana wanted my book. And so I met with them and signed a contract, and they put it into print, and I was waiting for the money to come in. and crickets, right?
Oh
So
no.
yeah,
It-
the publisher was a secular company that uh, was interested in my book because it had a dark side to it, and they
oh,
thought that it would play well with the genres that they published. It didn't, and they
okay.
called me up and said, we're sorry. Um, we don't normally do this, but we're going to give you back full rights to your book,
Oh,
and because we don't know how to penetrate the Christian market. And
oh,
so I got that back. I indie published that first book,
okay.
and as Freedom Fight. I thought
Okay.
that I had a great name there. And then when I finally got published through BHC Press, they were like, "Okay, yeah, we like the idea of where you're going with that title, but we've done some field market research with the titles that you have for your first three books, and
Yep.
they're not playing well. Everybody thinks that they're war novels, and I'm like,
Oh,
so they came up with some new names, and
okay.
yeah, so that's how I was traditionally published. And they're also a secular publisher, but they knew how to penetrate the market better. And so
Oh,
yeah,
yep.
it's been a little bit of a fun journey with them.
Yeah, that's awesome.
You
And
asked, fourth book is
no
is
problem.
indie published,
Yeah,
right?
then your indie book.
Because it was the third book is the last book of the series, The Other Realm
Okay.
Side. And I thought it was a sure thing to get it published through my publisher. And they said, "Frank, we're rejecting your manuscript." I'm like, "What? It's the fourth
Oh
title.
my
It
gosh.
ends the story." And they said,
Yeah.
"Yeah, no." I said, "Well, why?" And they said, the Christian publishing industry right now is kind of on a little bit of a
Um,
dive, and we've got other works that we're willing to invest our money in."
uh,
And
yep.
they said, "Well, you've got that fifth book that you told us about. We are very much interested in that." So I'm excited again to be traditionally published on book number 5.
Yep.
But yeah, so book number 4, interesting to get back into indie publishing again.
Yeah.
There's something sweet about it.
Yeah.
I get to mingle with my indie published people again, right?
Right.
And it's a great community. It's an
Oh, it
exciting
is. Yeah.
community. So
Very good
I
community.
get both worlds.
Yeah, hybrid author. So you get the best of both worlds, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
that's awesome. Cool. Well, it's good to know a little bit about that and everything. What's your typical writing slash work day look like? And do you write every day?
No. Um,
You want to say yes, but you're no.
yeah, exactly. Right. I'd like to blame my lack of writing on the impact of the writer.
Right.
But really, I wrote the first 7 chapters of the book that I'm writing now, and it was feeling very fluid, and things were going very well. And then I realized, wow, we're about to get into some war stuff. My fifth book is called Old Jeep,
Oh,
and
okay.
it is a World War II story, and
Hmm.
it's following 2 men. A
Hmm.
man from New York who works for a giant corporation who's looking to build a new office tower in Tulsa, Oklahoma, sends this man Mark out to do viability assessments and meet with financiers and with architects and things like that. And so he's out there. He's got this attitude of, you can't do anything right unless I tell you you're
Hmm.
doing something right.
Okay.
And he knows how to break people to his will, and to make architects and financiers, do what they don't want to do.
Mhm.
He's just someone that knows how to control people, and
Right.
he thrives at it, and he doesn't care how many people's feelings he hurts, right?
Mhm.
So he's out there, he rents a home, and he's going to look at everything he needs to do. But he keeps seeing this one old man walking the streets of Broken Arrow, where he's living, and Tulsa, where he's working.
Okay.
And this old man seems to be sane, seems to always know where he's going, but is everywhere. Every single day, this man's like, there he is again, there he is again. So he starts asking questions, and people say, "Yo, yeah, we know we know of him, but we don't know who he is." He stays kind of quiet. And one day he's at a lunch by by an architect that's courting him, and he's staring out the window, and as he sees this man walking down the sidewalk again, and he's just like, "What is this man's deal?" Well, he hears over his shoulder, his name's Gaylord. And
Okay.
so one of the architects says that he had a run-in with him, very brief. When he met him, the man just looked at him in the eyes and said, are you the one? And the architect's like, "Well, I'm sure I'm not." And the man says, "Nice to meet you. Have a good rest of your day," and that was the end of the conversation.
Yep.
So now Mark, the guy from New York, now knows that if he ever has an opportunity to meet the man, he does not say no. So, but he
Yep.
does. He crosses paths with the man, and the man asks him that question. He says, I don't know. And the man says, "Fair enough." They start interacting, conversation takes place, and the old man, who is in his 90s, basically says, "I think that you and I need to talk."
Yep.
And a conversation takes place as Mark takes him back to his home, because he walks, right? And so they get familiar, and he's challenged by this old man named Gaylord Patterson. Now,
Mhm.
Gaylord, GP, are his initials, and when he was in the military, GP stood for General Purpose, which is where we get Jeep from. So old
Oh,
Jeep
cool.
is
Yeah.
old Gaylord Patterson, right?
Yep.
And so it's a story about this old man having spent all of his years trying to forget the people that he cared about during the war who died.
Mm.
And his wife, who was a war bride, who he met in Italy,
Yep.
has been encouraging him to remember. Well, his wife died 5 years before, and now he's on this journey of having to face not just her loss, but the lives that he lost during the war. So every day that
Okay.
he walks, he spends trying to remember one more detail about the friends that he lost, about the war,
Okay.
for the first time in
Wow.
during his life.
Powerful.
So the Mark is going to be tasked with writing his story, and he doesn't know it.
Oh.
So yeah, interesting stuff. But it's going to be a pretty graphic, not vile graphic, but
Yep.
just yeah, it's going to be a punishing book, I think,
Oh
emotionally.
man. Oh,
So
well, it sounds very good though. I really like the World War II fiction and stuff. It's a fun, well, a tough time, but it's a fun world to work with for as a writer.
and I didn't really answer your question very much. Research is what's going on right now. My wife and I are leaving at the end of this month to go on a
Oh,
9-day road trip.
okay.
Uh, and we're visiting 3 World War II museums,
Oh,
going to
fun.
be in Oklahoma, where
Yep.
part of the story takes place, at the 45th Infantry Division Museum. And I'm going to be interviewing a major from the
Mhm.
U.S. Army there, who is the curator of the museum, for information about specifics to my story. So that's going
Oh,
to be a lot of fun.
cool.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds really good. Oh my gosh, how exciting that you're going to go on that little adventure and like meet people and interview people and see kind of the area where your story is taking place and how fun.
Yeah,
That'll be really nice.
I think so too. Yeah.
Ah, that's exciting. Cool. Okay. And so what would you recommend for other writers who want to be a published author slash like indie slash traditional? What would you encourage writers to do?
I actually have on my website a list of, I think, 12 tips on
Okay.
what to do if you're someone who's got a desire to write a story, right?
Yep.
But I think that what I would say is don't talk about writing.
Okay.
Start
Yep.
writing. Otherwise you're just a dreamer,
Yeah.
right? Uh, People can't read your dreams unless there's effort put behind those dreams. And
Right.
so if you don't want to be just a dreamer, if you want to actually write something, just write. Just take it through as far as you can take it, and complete what is on your heart to write. That
Mm,
first book is going to be for you.
yep.
It's going to be a work of accomplishment. It may not be read by anybody else. If it is, bravo, good job. You're atypical. But but just realize that it's a growth thing. It's a growth thing for you.
Yeah.
It is a tough it out thing. It is a tenacity thing. So bulldog your way through writing your first story, whether it's going to be a short story or a long story. And whether anybody reads it or not, doesn't matter so much as you have done something that 99% of the people who say that they want to write a story will never do.
Yeah, that's so true. That's so true. And it's sad too, because I feel like there's a lot of stories out there that would be really good
I know.
if they were
I know.
only finished, right?
And it's funny. There's a young lady who wrote her first book at the age of 17.
Wow.
And I'm going to give her a little bit of a plug here. Her
Okay.
name's Alyssa Nichols.
Ooh.
And this is a very terribly edited first attempt that she put on to Amazon, and I bought it. And I began to speak with her about her book, and I just said, "Hey, listen, I can understand where you're going with the story.
Right.
The characters have made sense to me. There's some disconnects that need to be fixed, and I think that you and I can work through some of them. But I think the biggest thing that you have to do is you need to find an editor.
Yeah.
You have to have an editor. You cannot self-edit as an author. Your first edits are yours, right?
Yeah.
And what you don't see are the things you don't see.
Yeah.
And so those are going to be discovered by somebody with completely different eyes. And so I was contacted actually while I was waiting for our conversation to take place by Alyssa, and she says, my book is going up today. And it's fully edited, and she's got a new cover. She's got everything. She's so excited. She's 18 now, and she's going to be an independently published author.
Yay!
And she is stoked. And I told her, I said, I need an autographed copy of that, because I really want to read it and be able to provide an honest review.
Yeah.
I already know that since it's been edited, that this story that pulled at my heartstrings is going to be something it's going to be a success, I think. So
gosh, that's so good. What would you say is the most difficult thing about being a writer and doing what you do?
There's this thing that a lot of authors call writer's block, right? And I don't know if I really believe in writer's block. I believe that when you get stuck, all you're really looking for is another direction to take the story. And it's just a matter of creativity and imagination, and sometimes prayer. And it's going to come, but it's oftentimes difficult when you know where you're wanting your story to go, and you come to a place where you're like, that's not going to work. It doesn't fit now where my characters have taken me. They're taking me a totally different direction than I had intended. And so now I've got to follow their lead, which is pretty stinking exciting. I love when my characters tell me where they want to go. And when you get emotionally invested in your characters, which is also sometimes difficult, because I write my characters and I put them in such difficult emotional pain that I find myself weeping at the keyboard, right? And I would say that maybe the toughest part is hurting for my characters, because they've become important. It's weird. People talk about writers, creating worlds and stuff like that. And I can't, I'm not one of those people that does, what's the name of the conference, world builders, or not world makers or realm makers.
Yes, I think so.
I'm not a realm maker. I have a lot of appreciation for people who can write the fantasy stuff that I've read, but that's not where I live. I live in the here and now. I put my
Right.
characters into here and now situations, and I know the world that we live in.
Yeah.
I know how horrible it can be and how painful it can be.
Yeah.
And I subject my characters to that. So that to me is probably the hardest thing, um, other than finding the direction that they want to go in.
Yeah.
A little bit of tug of war.
Yeah, that is beautiful. I absolutely love how you said that. And kind of like with that impact too. And you know how like you create realistic characters that are going through troubles and stuff that are similar to what we go through. And I feel like that kind of a character really helps I don't know, readers see that there's hope and light at the end of the tunnel because
Yeah.
they've seen it in a book, and then they can also think, okay, well, if that person was able to do that, then there's hope for me.
You know,
So,
and I'm good. I guess it's not a shameless plug because you're asking about my stories and stuff, but
right, right.
like this book right here. This book, the first book of my series, deals with suicide. All
Okay.
right, deals with um, the inability to find answers on one's own,
Mm.
and it also deals with issues of witchcraft and oppression and things like that.
Ooh, okay.
Book two, yeah, book two uh, deals with outside influences where somebody uh, is trying to mess with your family, and
Mm.
it deals with the internal anger and the hate that you could fall into as a Christian. And so book three, da, da, da. Book three deals with abortion,
Mm. Yep.
deals with the pressure felt by a lot of girls by outside influences to make that kind of a decision,
Hmm.
deals with fear in the most extreme depths,
Yep.
um, and not knowing where to turn, deals with parents who are
Mm.
unsympathetic
Mm.
about what's going on in your life. And it also deals with anger toward God, a Christian's anger toward God, almost to the point of hate
Mm. Okay.
for a death that took place, and how entrenched that person who died was in this person's life, and anger at God for how the death occurred and how uh, the timing wouldn't allow for him to say goodbye.
Okay.
So, and then
Wow.
last but not least, dun, dun, dun,
Look
this
for.
that dark place uh, it's the I know I've talked about a lot of darkness already, but this is the one that's the most dark.
Okay.
It was a little, I don't want to say scary, but it weighed heavy on me, this subject. It deals with pornography.
Oh, yep.
It deals with a young girl's own uh, addiction to it,
Mm.
and a man's addiction to it that causes him to cross paths with her, and he is now going to try to basically make her his.
Oh, okay.
And
Yep.
so he's gonna stalk her. He's a predator.
Oh, yep.
So yeah, so
But
it
that was
deals
kind
with
of scary to write.
all those issues. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but all of my stories have a redeeming aspect to them.
Mhm.
All of my stories have a transformative aspect to
Okay.
them. My stories are not going to leave you going, gosh, why did I read that book?
Yep.
So,
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. That's wonderful. Yeah, that's great. I'm super excited for people to check those books out and everything. And then when it comes to the most precious thing to you as a writer, what would you say that is?
I'm going to repeat myself a little bit, I think.
Sure.
I love writing a character that makes me cry.
Mm.
I, I deliberately put characters into a place where my heart breaks, right? And but like I said, I write about redemption and lead them through transformation. I fall in love even with my bad guys
Mm.
because I understand what makes them tick. I know why they're doing what they're doing, and I wish for them that they could find a solution. So I'm like, if you're loving people in the real world, like God loves them, then I am trying to love my characters the same way, and sometimes trying to find a way for a character to be redeemed. And oftentimes realizing, though, that if it's a real type of story, that some of these characters are not going to be redeemable. And so I love them. And I think that's where I
That's
go with
beautiful.
that answer. So
Yeah, that's really beautiful. I like that thought of like, love them like God loves us. I think that's so cool because like, God's created all of us, but just like that redeeming quality, some of us are redeemed and then some of us choose the other way and
yeah,
sadly don't. But it's just that's an interesting way to think about it. And I never thought of it that way. Yes, it makes sense. And then where can people find you and your books?
the bottom one is my author site, wfranklinlattimore.com.
Lovely.
And the top is my blog,
Okay.
otherrealmlife.wordpress.com.
Okay.
And
I'll put those links below in the description as well.
terrific. Thanks. I appreciate that very much. Thank you.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for chatting with me, Frank. And it was just a pleasure to chat with you and
Thank you
connect
for
with
having
you
me.
again and hear your heart behind your stories. It's just wonderful.
I appreciated the opportunity. Thank
Oh,
you.
good.
God bless you, Devin, and
Yeah.
your family and your writing.
Thank you.
And, make sure that your writing gets exposed as much as possible too, because there are those of us that want to hear what your heart's all about.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah, that means a
You're welcome.
lot. Thank you. Bye, Frank.